everyone, welcome back to my channel, and today I thought it would be fun just to share a couple of autumn and Halloween book recommendations with you guys. So I suggest just grab a nice cup of tea, a nice cup of coffee or another hot beverage and just sit down and relax and let's talk about some books. For this video I decided to divide my recommendations in a couple of different categories. So we're going to talk about some witchy, scary, cozy, vampire and also some comic books. So I think I have quite a couple of things covered in this video, and I would also like to share my October TBR with you guys because I kind of picked out my books for October with autumn and Halloween in mind, and I kind of think they're perfect for this time of year, but at the same time I haven't read them, so I don't know, but I just really wanted to share them with you. If you are interested in a certain type of category, you can just check out the timestamps down below because I will put them down in the description box. If you really like this video or if you want to see more of my videos, then please subscribe or hit the like button because it would really help me out. But I suggest stop talking and rambling and just get into the books. So for the cozy books, let's start off with Legends and Lotus by Travis Baldree. And this book I think has all the perfect cozy vibes. This book, also one of the reasons why I wanted to recommend this for autumn, is because it talks a lot about hot beverages and a lot of nice sweets and treats, and especially also about baking and have a nice cozy cafe. And I don't know about you guys, but during autumn I'm always longing for nice sweet treats, but also for nice hot different type of beverages. If it's coffee, tea, hot chocolate or whatever, I'm always really longing for those things. And that's one of the reasons why I think this book is perfect for this time of year. This book follows Viv. She is an orc and she decides to kind of leave her warrior life behind her. She used to fight a lot, travel the world, but she kind of decides to just settle down somewhere in a nice village, and she kind of also decides to start for herself, and she opens a nice little cafe. And this book is really about her opening her cafe and her learning how to work for herself, how to manage everything, how to build her own cafe, and also how to make new friends and get everything running. So there's not a lot of action in here, not until towards the end of the book when something dreadfully happens. But during the most part of the book, it is really just talking about how to make new friends, how to start over at a different place, and just about making coffee and start your own cafe. So I really like this book. It's just really wholesome, super cozy. I think it just has the perfect fall cozy vibes. For the second book for the cozy book category, I would love to recommend a series, the Dream Harbor series by Laurie Gilmore. Especially the Pumpkin Pie Spice Cafe has the perfect autumn vibes. You can already see it on the cover, so many autumn leaves. It is actually called Pumpkin Spice Cafe. It screams autumn, and this book is completely placed in autumn. So everything that happens in here is during the autumn season, which kind of gives you the perfect autumn vibes. It's talk about the cold weather, the falling leaves. It talks about pumpkins and farms, but also about a pumpkin broderie and all other kind of things. Again, hot beverages are included in this book as well, which I think is perfect for this time of year because, well, we are getting cold, so we definitely need something to heat up, and a hot beverage is perfect for that. So yeah, this book just has all the vibes. It follows Jeannie, who decides to come and live in Dream Harbor. She decides to take over the cafe from her aunt. She used to work and live in Boston, but she decides to leave that city and just start over in Dream Harbor. There she meets Logan and they kind of really hit off from the start. They really like each other, but their romance still slowly blossoms, like it still slowly develops throughout the book. And this book really is all about Jeannie trying to see how to work with the cafe, how to learn to live in a new place in Dream Harbor, a small village instead of a very big city, adjusting to her new surroundings, but also making new friends and finding a new family. The sequel, The Cinnamon Bun Bookstore, is, I also think, perfect for autumn. This book kind of takes place in a transitional season from summer to autumn. So you have like the last couple of weeks of summer and the first couple of weeks of autumn. So you kind of have like both of the vibes. And I kind of also read this book beginning of September, so I read it at the perfect time. This book follows Hazel. She lives in Dream Harbor and runs a bookstore. She already knows Matt, and Matt and Hazel, they kind of like each other, but at the same time, he is younger than she is. He's also more of a guy who likes to date all kinds of girls, and she is very on her own, more of a granny style of lady, and just really be on her own. So they are kind of two completely different type of people, and you kind of can see that in this book. They kind of like decide to learn to work together, and that kind of is the way how their relationship starts to blossom in this book. So I definitely feel that this is also perfect for autumn. Another series I would love to recommend is the Emily Wilde series, written by Heather Fawcett. I really hope I pronounced that right. And this book I kind of really want to recommend, not only because of the cover, because both covers I think scream autumn. Like, look at the leaves and the little mushrooms, perfect for autumn. In the first book you meet Emily, and Emily is a scholar that investigates fairies. And in this book you kind of go with her on an expedition to the north, where she is trying to find out more about the fae folk that live in the north. She gets some company from one of her rival scholars, Wendell Bumblebee. And from the get-go they really don't like each other. They're both completely different people, and they definitely have a lot of issues with each other. But at the same time, he doesn't go away. She's still there, and they kind of start working together, and slowly they develop some type of a friendship and relationship, and that kind of like grows into something else. This book is not only a romance, but mostly and definitely mostly focuses on the fae and on the fairies and how everything works in the world. Something that I really love about the series is that the fae people are very horrible. You can't trust them. They deceive, they really try to trap the people, the human beings, and they are really dangerous. And that's one of the things I love about this book, because it's very unpredictable. It has some tension in it, some suspense, but it also has friendship and find family, and also some little bit of romance in there as well. That definitely blossoms a lot more in the sequel than it does in the first book. And together I think they're perfect read during fall. And now let's talk about some witchy books. One of the first books, or actually series, I would love to recommend is the Serpent and Dove series by Shelby Maroon. And I really hope I pronounced her last name right. But this book, I think it kind of screams autumn, mostly also because of the vibes and because of the amount of witchcraft and magic there is in this book. It has a medieval setting, and you follow a witch and a witch hunter who kind of learn to work together. They are forced in an arranged marriage. Because they are forced together in a false marriage, it gives a lot of hilarious situations, and at the same time they really struggle with accepting each other. They don't fall in love that easily. It's slowly built up throughout the book, with a lot of doubts and a lot of trying to betray each other as well. The story progresses a little bit slow in the beginning and kind of speeds up towards the end of the story. This book kind of weighs a lot more on the romance side than, for example, the Emily Wilde series, because the romance is kind of how our main characters get to know each other. That definitely is one of the main plot lines. At the same time, the politics and trying to make the world a better place for witches is also one of the main stories throughout the whole series. My other two witchy books are a lot more towards the cozy side, and the first one is The Very Secret Society of Irregular Witches by Sangu Madana. And I love this book. This has the perfect cozy vibes. When I think of autumn, I also think of warm feelings and just very warm emotions. And one of the things that I really love is found family. And that is something that's very heavily depicted in this book. And I think that's one of the reasons why I think it's perfect for autumn. Yes, it also has some witchcraft in it, and it also has a lot of coziness in it as well. The story progresses very slowly. You follow Micah Moon, who decides to go to Nowhere House. She suddenly gets an invitation to come there and teach a couple of young witches. Micah has always lived on her own, and she's someone that's very introvert, and she kind of prefers to be on her own. So she is a little bit unsure at the beginning, but she kind of wants to give it a go and kind of wants to see if she can change her life. And she learns the young witches how to use their magic. And it is just a very lovely book with all about finding new family, finding new friends, and not being on your own and trying to make something else from your life. I really, really love the story. It also has a little bit of romance in there, but it is very slight, and it slowly progresses throughout the story, and towards the end of the book you kind of like get this climax of the romance story. But for the biggest part of the book, it is really about finding yourself and learning to adapt, but also trying to hide your magic and learning how to live with it and try to shield yourself from the human world. My last witchy book I would love to talk about is Bewitched by Lucy Jane Wood. I also made like a reading vlog about this book, so if you want to know more about this book and about what I thought about it, you can definitely check it out. I'll put it down in the description box down below. But this book, well, for starters, the cover, it just screams autumn. It's absolutely perfect. It has the most perfect autumn vibes. The story takes place during autumn as well, and it has a lot of descriptions about the cold weather, the nature, and how everything is changing. But it also again has a couple of very essential things in the story, like hot beverages, witches, magic. This book follows Bella Blackthorn, and Bella Blackthorn is kind of like struggling with her life. At the same time, she loves the way her life is, but she also realizes that she doesn't really take any chances. She kind of just lives her life without changing anything, and she really plays it on the safe side. When her 30th birthday is coming up, she suddenly gets a letter that asks her to come to her estranged coven to kind of prove that she's allowed to keep her magic. She has been hiding her magic for almost more than 15 years while living in the human world. So this is definitely a challenge, and she kind of has to prove to everyone that she's worthy of being a witch. She gets a lot of help from a very mysterious mentor, and she also has this broody and also grumpy watchman that needs to make sure that she stays safe. There is an element of romance in here, but again, the element of romance is more on the background, and it kind of really slowly develops, which makes it feel a lot more real and kind of just perfect for the story. It has just so many autumn vibes, and of course again with the magic, the coziness, finding a family, but also this book really is about finding yourself and taking your place in the world. So I think it's perfect for this time. So let's talk about some comics. I have decided to pick out a couple of comics with obviously some autumn vibes, but mostly Halloween vibes. And the first two different comics I would love to share with you guys are a little bit in the gothic sphere, I feel, especially in the drawings. And they are definitely leaning more towards Halloween. They're both about a girl who died. And it is very tragic, and it kind of is all about being dead and not being able to be with your family, not being able to touch everything, not being able to live the life you wanted to be, because both of these girls died before they're old. They're very young when they die. So they really struggle with that, and I love both of these stories. And one of the reasons that I really want to share them with you guys as well is also because of the drawings, because I feel that they have the perfect Halloween and autumn vibes when it comes down to the drawings. The first one I would love to share with you guys is Alice, and I read this in French, but I think it's original in German comic. So this one definitely has not only the gloomy side of being dead and acceptance, but also some really funny scenes in it as well. And the drawings are so extremely pretty. I really, really love the drawings in this book. You see a couple of the side characters as well. And I think these drawings, they do, at least I feel, they have like a little bit of a gothic vibe because of the colors, the darkness, and the way they are drawn as well. The other one, however, Ants. This comic is originally Italian, And this, however, compared to the other story, has like the same type of story, but this is a lot more sad and a lot more gloomy. However, the drawings I think are spectacular, and that's one of the reasons why I love rereading this, and it definitely makes me cry a couple of times. But I just think that it is perfect for this time of year, especially because of the drawings. Yeah, I'll show you a couple of pages of the drawings as well. But it's also, again, a lot about nature. You see a lot of animals in there as well. And I just really think that this is perfect for this time of year. My last comic that I would love to share with you guys is actually in series. And I don't know if this is written as well in English or in different language, because I buy these in France and they are written in French. But I still really want to share this with you guys. This series is a lot more light and a lot more fun to read. At least the story is a lot more fun. And that is Le Jardin des Fées. Especially if you look at these covers, like I've got here the first one, the sequel, oops, the third one, which actually was released I think this year, and they all have, I feel at least, a lot of autumn vibes to them. And this story is all about fays and fairies, and that's also one of the reasons why I think it's just perfect. I don't know, for me this series really is all about the way everything is drawn. Because it kind of just makes me feel very autumny. It has a lot of warm colors in here as well. The story takes place during autumn winter vibes, but it also sometimes this takes place during summer as well, so it kind of takes place in every season. But I don't know, it is a book all about nature and fairies, and that really is central to the story, and that's one of the reasons why I think it's perfect for autumn, because when it is autumn I'm always a little bit more aware of nature. I always go out for walks and stuff like that, so that's one of the reasons why I think it's just perfect for this time of year. This book, especially the first one, it takes place during the transition period of summer to autumn, so you again get like these summer moments, and then you slowly come to the autumn where leaves are falling from the trees, everything is turning gold and red. So that's one of the reasons why I think this is perfect for this time of year. And I'll show you a couple of pages with drawings because they're so pretty. I think this is from the 3 that I shared with you guys, one of my favorite comics. The drawings are amazing, and that's one of the reasons why I really want to share this with you guys. And the fairies and everything, they're so heartwarming. This is about a girl who is going to live, I think she's living with distant relatives. Those people are not as nice as they think that they are, and they kind of trap and murder fairies when they see them. And unfortunately for the fairies, they have a group of fairies live in their garden. So one day she goes out in the garden, she meets the fairies and she decides to protect them. She also saves a couple of fairies who are already caught by that family. A lot of things happen, and it really is about her journey trying to make sure that the fairies are safe. In the end, she leaves the family and goes on this trip to make sure that she can find a place where the fairies are safe. So that's like one of the goals from the first book, and that kind of goes to the second and also in the third. So let's talk about vampire books. I already mentioned Serpent and Dove by Shelby Marine, and now I kind of want to mention her other series, The Scarlet Veil. One of the reasons why I decided to pick this out was because I was trying to find books that have vampires in them, because vampires for me scream Halloween. I don't know, they're just perfect for this time of year. I think everything that has vampires in them, especially if the vampires are like the main characters, I think it's just perfect for autumn Halloween. This book follows one of the side characters, Celie. Celie, she is this character that is always being protected by everyone else. She's very girly, and that's one of the reasons why everyone feels they have to protect her, and she's kind of done being constantly protected, constantly shielded from the darkness and the horrors of the world, and she decides to go and also have some very dangerous encounters, and she wants to join in when everyone else around her is going to fight or are being endangered in very dangerous situations, and she kind of just wants to join in, and she wants to prove to her family and her friends that she can handle those situations. And she comes to this island full of vampires as a human, and she kind of slowly proves to everyone that she definitely can handle herself. And at the same time she's struggling living with all these vampires, and trying to find out what is haunting her and what this trouble or darkness is that is following her around. This book is definitely also a lot more dark compared to the Serpent and Dove series. This book definitely has a lot of gothic vibes, the way how the vampires are, and just it's this very gloomy, misty, and I don't know, the whole feeling of this book just screams autumn and winter. So that's one of the reasons why I definitely think it's perfect to read around this time of year. Another book I would love to share with you guys is Bride by Ailey Hazelwood. This book does not only have vampires, but also has werewolves. So yeah, werewolf, vampire, it is the spooky season, so it's perfect for around Halloween. However, this book is not really spooky. This book is a romance. In this book, it is romance first, fantasy second. It is about a vampire and a werewolf who are going to get married, not because they like each other or that they are in love with each other, but they are forced into a marriage to kind of align the vampire and the werewolves together. Both our main characters really struggle in this story, and they don't like each other. There are a lot of other politics and scheming and things happening as well, and they're trying to figure out who's behind it, who's trying to make sure that the vampire and werewolves are getting again into some type of war. So they're kind of trying to save their marriage to make sure that the vampires and werewolves are not going to get into war. This book also has a lot of spice. I think of all the books that I'm sharing with you guys, this book definitely has a lot of spice. If you do not like weird stuff, then this book is definitely not for you, because the spice in this book is just, it's from another level. My last vampire read that I would love to share with you guys is one that is already very old, and I think a lot of people already read this book, or either read this book or seen the movie, but I just really wanted to share it with you guys, and that is Twilight. Because for me, Twilight started my love for vampires. And I know it's super cliche, and I know a lot of people hate this book or they love this book, but for me it is one old favorite. This book has kept me out of reading slumps so many times. This whole series is amazing. It definitely has some flaws. It's a YA book, and I definitely feel that Twilight has all the perfect settings when it comes to autumn. It has this perfect gloomy vibe, and yes, again, it is also about vampires. It takes place in our own world, but it has like this perfect gloomy and also a lot of forest vibes as well, because a lot of things take place in forest. There are werewolves in here as well, and I don't know, it just, for me, this is the perfect autumn vibe. It just has so many autumn feelings, and when you read this, you can feel the cold, you can see the rain, you can feel how everything is gray and dark. It has just the perfect autumn vibes. Now let's talk about some scary books. The first scary book I would love to recommend is Coraline, written by Neil Gaiman, and this book is written for children, but it is, I think, really scary. It is super weird as well, and that is one of the reasons why I would love to recommend this for during this time of year. It follows the girl Coraline, and she and her family are moving to a new house, and when they get into this new house, Coraline feels that something is following her around everywhere, not only in the garden but also in the house itself. And then suddenly on one day she finds this portal to the same house with the same parents, but then completely different, and she kind of starts to go there more and more often. She gets to know them as well, and then suddenly everything turns out to be really creepy, and also some things are not entirely as it seems, and that's one of the reasons why it gives so many scary and eerie vibes. The second scary book I would love to recommend is Dracula, written by Bram Stoker. This is a gothic horror story, and it's obviously super famous, with a lot of movie adaptations, even a musical and screenplays. And this book is just perfect. It has so many gloomy feelings, so many beautiful descriptions, how everything looks, how the nature looks, how everything feels, and the emotions that are getting into play as well. And this is just perfect for this time of year. It follows Jonathan Harker, who goes to Transylvania to go to this house where Count Dracula lives, and he kind of has to do some business deal over there. And when he gets there, not everything is what it seems to be, and he realizes that the house is full of vampires. When he gets back to London, he gets engaged, and it seems as if the vampires has followed him back to London as well. And when he gets engaged with Mina, a lot of strange things are happening, and this vampire hunter Van Helsing also comes into play, who's trying to find the vampire Dracula. And Jonathan and Mina kind of like get mixed up, trying to find this vampire and trying to take him down. And during this book, you kind of also have a little bit of romance, especially from Mina, mostly towards Jonathan, but there is some slight hinting of romance towards Dracula as well. And I don't know, I just really love this book. It also has a sequel, Dracula the Undead, and to be quite honest, I really enjoyed the sequel as well. It kind of just follows Mina and Dracula after the first book and how their life kind of just evolves after everything. And I think this is really good, and I love the sequel just as much as I love the first book. If you have read Dracula but you never read the sequel, I would highly recommend it. My last scary book I would love to recommend is Pet Sematary, written by Stephen King. And again, this is also a pretty famous book with also a movie adaptation. And Pet Sematary is just this perfect, gloomy, scary vibes in this book. You really feel that there is something not right, even though everything looks just perfect. It follows a family who decides to move to a new town. There they bought a very big and nice house with a beautiful garden, but this garden is next to a very busy road. So from the beginning on, they're a little bit nervous about this road for their children, but also for the pets that they have. And they meet a new neighbor and they slowly get to know each other, and everything seems perfect at the beginning. But from the beginning of the story, you feel that something is looming over this perfect, happy little family. That something is not entirely right with the house and the place that they are living. And in the end, it isn't. These are all my autumn recommendations that I read myself, and I think they are just perfect for this time of year. But I kind of also wanted to share with you guys my October TBR. And when I decided to pick out this TBR, there were a couple of things I was looking for, mostly for books that have either witchy or a little bit of scary vibes to them. I haven't read all the synopsis, so I kind of hope that they have the perfect vibe, but at least the cover screamed that vibes. And the first book that I would love to share with you guys is Sense, Sensibility and Sea Monsters. I'm a huge Jane Austen fan. Like, I love her work. I reread her books like, well, almost every year, and I just love her work so much. And when I saw this book a couple of years ago, because I really have this book on my shelves for ages now, because it was very cheap, I decided to buy it and give it a go. But I never have, and I'm going to make myself read this. It is kind of just a retelling of Sense, Sensibility, but then with sea monsters. So I'm still not entirely sure about the book, even now that I'm talking about it with you guys. I don't know, I kind of feel that this might be a DNF, but at the same time it can also be weirdly entertaining. Another book that I am going to read during October is The Starling House. The Starling House for me has all the autumn, well, not really the autumn, but all the Halloween gothic vibes, especially when you look at the cover. The cover just for me screams Halloween and gothic, and I don't know, it's one of the reasons why I actually picked it out for this year. This book follows Opal, and Opal kind of wants a better life for herself and her brother Jasper. And when she kind of gets the chance to work at the Starling House, which she is completely obsessed about because of the author who used to live there and wrote one of her favorite books, she decides to take this chance and start working there, where she just has to do some chores, and it's a very easy way for her to make some extra cash to make sure that she can take away her brother to a better place to live in. So for me, I don't know, it definitely has this haunted house type of feeling for this book. So that's one of the reasons why I think it definitely will be perfect for this time of year. Another book that I really want to read during October is The Honey Witch, written by Sydney J. Shields. And this book, one of the reasons why I decided to pick it out is because I recently bought this last month actually. And I kind of just want to read it, and it has witch in it, so I figured it's perfect for this time of year. This book, however, definitely screams a lot more spring and summer vibes, if I'm really honest, especially if you look at the cover. It's super pretty, but I kind of feel that even though it's super pretty, it has a little bit more summery vibes to it. But still, I think the story, it's about a witch, so it has magic in it. It's probably a really good one to read during October. It follows Marigold Claude, and she gets this offer to be trained by her grandmother as a honey witch. But there is one problem: a honey witch can't find the love of her life. So even though she loves to explore this magical opportunity, she is going to pay a price for it, and I think that just sounds perfect. So I'm definitely curious to see where the story is going. The last book that I want to read is Revival by Stephen King, and this book is a book that I've never read before, so I don't really know if I like it. I used to read a lot of Stephen King when I was like a teenager, and I haven't really read a lot of his works for the last couple of years, but I still have this one on my shelf. I've never read it, but this is a book that follows Jamie, and Jamie meets this very impressive man, Charles Jacobs, when he is very young and when he's playing outside, and they kind of, when he grows up, they get this very special bond. When he's older, Jamie has this very rock and roll type of life, and his life is very differently than it used to be. On one day he meets this person, Charles Jacobs again. Their bond continues to still exist, and they kind of just start to explore this bond again. But this bond seems to be very dangerous. Well, that's kind of what the synopsis says, so I'm definitely curious to see where this story goes. To be quite honest, I have this book on my shelves for so long, and I really like Stephen King, but sometimes it is a hit or a miss for me, his works. I have always a little bit of doubts about this book, but I really hope it's going to be scary enough for me to like it. So that was all my books that I want to read in October, and all my recommendations for autumn and for Halloween. So I really hope that there was something in here during this video that you liked, and maybe you can add to your TBR as well. So let me know in the comment section down below which books you're most excited to read during this time of year. And also let me know which books I recommend to you guys you kind of want to read or already read. And I don't know, I really love to talk to you guys in the comment section down below. Again, if you like this video, then please give it a thumbs up and hit the subscribe button. And I really hope to see you guys in the next one next week. Bye bye!